Okay, the third way of finding the inverse of a function is by graphing it. And this is a really easy method, especially with a calculator. Some textbooks might ask you to find the inverse function and then graph it, but I think that's just really more complex. So the inverse graph, let's first take a look at some points to note. The inverse graph will be the reflection of the original graph over the line y equals x. And we'll talk about that as we proceed through this question. But let's just start, since we're talking about exponential functions, let's look at our favorite exponential function, y equals 2 to the x. And I'm going to create a table of values. And again, I strategically chose these numbers because they will fit on my graph of my patch of graph paper. And yeah, that's just mainly the reason why. So if you're wondering where I got these, I just chose them. 2 to the third power is 8. 2 squared is 4. 2 to the first is 2. 2 to the 0 is 1. And you can see that each of these numbers over here on the right hand side we're taking half of them. So 2 to the negative first is not negative 2, folks. It's 1/2. And this is 1/4. And this is 1/8. And I'm just simply going to graph those ordered pairs on my patch of graph paper. Noting that as I go here, that these numbers will never touch 0 because there's no input value that makes this 0. They get insanely close to 0, so that's where the asymptote concept comes in. Now, by switching x with y like we did in the previous video, that would not help us any because we can't solve for the new y because it's tied up in the exponent. We don't know how to do that yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to use my method that I use with ordered pairs and just switch these out. So I'm going to switch out all these y values with all these x values. And I'm going to get this table of values. And I'm just going to plot these points. So if you were doing this in a calculator, you could take a look at your table of values for your original function and just switch them out to have the inverse. So here's what it looks like. And this gets us back to this concept here, that the inverse function, which is blue, is a reflection of the original over the line y equals x. And this is the line y equals x. So imagine if you were to fold along this line, and before you did, you painted this red graph, and then you fold it along this line. This would be the impression of that. Okay, this is where that wet paint would land. And there you have it, the inverse of a graph. Easy. So again, just to sum it up, especially if you have a calculator, just plug this into your y1 and take a look at the table of values and switch them out to find the inverse. Okay. Hopefully this was helpful and you now understand the 3 methods of finding inverses.